here with Kevin Wynn, a bass player and founding member of Tysondog, with whom we're going to speak about a brand new album and more besides that. So, Kevin, welcome.
Good evening. Good to see you and hear you.
All right, we're hearing each other finally. So, in a few weeks' time, Tysondog will be releasing this brand new album called Midnight. Can you briefly describe it, especially in relation to the band's other three albums?
Yeah, well, there it is there. Just come today.
There you are.
Literally just received them from Denmark today. So
okay.
Off the press. Nice blood red vinyl there. So
nice.
Yeah, it's been a good progression from that, which was a slightly problematic album, I would say. Cry Havoc.
Why problematic?
Engineer wasn't great. Jeff was involved in it. Mantas was involved in it, and it was pinging all over the place. It was going over to the States, and then it was going over to Italy, and then he was in Portugal.
He lives in Portugal, no?
Yeah, and it was just, we kept getting different mixes through all the time. And the final mix, to be honest, I don't think any of us was really, really happy with it, you know. Our songs are great on it. Mm-hmm. My only criticism would be there was too many songs on it. Okay. We ended up with about 13 songs. Some of them I think probably shouldn't have got on the album. But so this one we made a conscious effort to, because one of the songs is very long, about 5 or 6 minutes long. And we made the decision just to have it about 9 songs. Originally it was going to be 10, but at the last minute we dropped one of the songs. But it's been a long time coming. We seem to have had this album on the back burner for a long, long time. I mean, some of the songs probably are about 5-year-old, you know, so they're not really new songs. So it's good because we left it for quite some time due to COVID and everything, lockdown.
Of course, yeah.
So we recorded this at the end of 2019, due for release in and around April 2020. So we're now 2 years down the line, and it's quite refreshing to hear it after all this time. Okay,
let's speak about this album. The title track, is it a reference to the Doomsday Clock, with midnight representing nuclear annihilation?
Yeah, I think all our songs have got something to do with the occult, war, zombies. So it's fantasy sci-fi.
Well, actually, nuclear annihilation is a topical question right now, no?
It is. I got asked a question the other day regarding Cold Day in Hell being associated with what's going on, and it was like, well, no, these songs, as I say, some of them are 5-year-old, and the album was written in 2019. The album was recorded in 2019, so it's quite strange that a lot of the tracks on this album are quite poignant. Relevant now, exactly, yeah. But yeah, a lot of it's just fantasy, you know, sort of tongue-in-cheek, macabre.
Okay, there's a song I noticed called Papercuts where Clutch sings, "It really sucks that we never got to say goodbye." Who's that song about, Papercuts?
I think it was probably I mean, it being poignant now to our road manager who died very suddenly during COVID, during the pandemic. He didn't have COVID. He just fell asleep listening to Tysondog, but never woke up. according to his son, when they found his body, he was playing Tysondog on his headphones, which was really creepy. But I don't think it's I don't know. Paul writes a lot of the music and the lyrics, so I don't think it's nothing really. Unless I ask him about it, I don't think it's anything really.
Paul, you're referring to the guitarist of Tysondog, right?
The guitarist Paul. He is the main songwriter, and I don't. It might have been because he lost his mum and he lost his dad. It could be referred to his dad. I couldn't really, we're at that age now where a lot of friends and relatives are passing away in that. But it is quite poignant. You're right about that lyric, and I do when I hear that lyric, I do think to Danny. So it's pretty strange. He heard it. I mean, he did hear a lot of these songs because he used to turn up at rehearsals and hear us play these. So although he didn't see the album come out, he was there when we were rehearsing them, and he was always because he was a good musician as well. So it was always good to bounce ideas off him. Did that sound right? What do you think of this? So,
So we were speaking about band members. It was originally agreed that Clutch would leave the band to enable him to focus on his health. So how come he ended up singing in this album in Midnight?
Clutch has a lot of demons, and he's battled with them for years and years since he was a very young man, and he fell off the wagon quite famously in Brazil when we played in Brazil, and on the way back on the plane we sat and we chatted, and he'd said, "That's it for me. I cannot do it anymore. If I continue, I've let the band down. I've let myself down. I've let my family down. I need to retire." So we tried to talk him out of it because we had some really big gigs coming up in the UK when we came back, which we couldn't, we didn't want to and we couldn't cancel. And we let him have time away to try and sort of get his stuff together. And this is how we ended up with the Frenchman, Bill Kendema.
Yeah, Bill, yeah.
So Bill was an absolute star of the show. He'd done some great gigs with us, really, flying in from France to rehearse, and then, really kind of talk highly of him. And then as we were doing the album, Clutch just turned up at the studio one day and took away the songs, wrote the lyrics to Cold Day in Hell literally in a few hours. Listen to the song. But as I say, a lot of these songs were like 4 or 5 years old, so Clutch was familiar with some of the material. Come back, told us he was okay, he was clean, he'd been given the okay, and we did a couple of rehearsals with him, and he got the songs off and went in the studio and absolutely killed it. So we thought that was him back in the band. Anyway, as we say, sort of pandemic hits and Clutch disappears. We couldn't find him. We didn't know where he was.
After the recording was done?
After the recording of the album. And we couldn't find him, couldn't get in touch with him. And found out he'd spent a period of time in and out of certain hospitals. And we were asked to do, as the pandemic was quieting down a bit, we got asked to do a TV show or a video show at KK's Steel Mill in Wolverhampton with Grim Reaper and Titan. And he I think it got to him then. We managed to get in touch with him and said, "Listen, we've got this to do. A couple of tracks off the new album, a couple of old songs. no crowd, so you'll have no like stage fright, any nerves, so no need to drink or take anything. And he just says, listen, I can't do it. And we rang because Bill was great when we explained that Clutch was going to come back and join the band. Bill was fantastic because he knew, obviously, his exact words were Clutch is the voice of Tysondog. So he was a real gentleman about it, you know. And again, I cannot speak highly enough of him, you know, as a person and as a vocalist, you know. So unfortunately, that's when we knew that that Clutch, that was him finished. So he wasn't going to perform or sing live. But
so this album is his way of saying goodbye, sort of, in a way.
It is. Yeah. Someone asked us that the other day in an interview, you know, why should people go out and buy this album? And I was like, because you're not going to hear him sing ever again. That's it. This is it. That's it. What you've said there is great. Yeah, that's it. That's his final farewell.
So now you've got a new singer in, which you officially revealed a few days ago. So can you tell me more about him, why him, etc.?
Well, again, it was very difficult, like I said, rehearsing with Bill, him in France, me in Manchester, the rest of the band in Newcastle, and it just got really, really complicated. And we weren't rehearsing enough. We weren't writing quick enough. You know, everything was taking too long because of the distances involved. So we were trying to find a northeast-based or a northern-based singer, even in Manchester, for example. And we auditioned 2 or 3 singers, and it just didn't sound right. When you had the same singer for so many years, it's so, even though they were great singers, even Bill, it still sounded good, but it just didn't really sound like us. And anyway, one day someone had said, "Oh, what about Alan Ross?" I was like, "Alan, but he's a guitar player. He's the guitarist in Blitzkrieg."
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And you know, Brian Ross's son, Brian out of Satan and Blitzkrieg. So, and it says, "Oh no, he's doing club gigs. He's in a Deep Purple tribute band. He's also in a covers band with Mickey Crystal, who used to be the guitar player in Tiger Pantan. So he's in a bit of a super group in Newcastle." And we got him down, and he just absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. So, you know, we went through 3 or 4 rehearsals with him. Between us and the record company, it was sort of decided that we wanted to get the new album out before we announced the singer, because getting this product out was more important than announcing a new singer.
Yeah.
But we have a gig coming up this weekend in Germany.
Germany, yeah.
And so we didn't want to turn up in Germany and go, "Oh," and they go, "Oh, that's not Clutch." Do you know what I mean? So we had to say, "Listen, this is the guy. He's the new voice in Tysondog." I mean, the album's going to be out in a few weeks' time. So,
and how's the singing of Alan like? Is it similar to Clutch or different? Or?
He's got more melody to his voice. Where Clutch had more of a grit to his voice, Alan can sing. But the Clutch today compared to the Clutch back in the 80s is entirely different. But that's just an age thing. So Clutch in the early days was like a young Rob Halford. You know, he could scream and he could get the high notes, and he still had a bit of to his voice. As it went on, it became more than high pitched, and some of the tracks he really struggled on. He struggled to get some of the notes. Whereas Alan, he's only in his late 30s. He's still got that really good range, and he's the consummate professional. You know, he's like the youngsters now. He wears in-ear monitors. He's got his own effects pedals to help with a bit of effect on his voice. Pre-recorded intros to songs. So all in all, we actually sound a lot more professional because he's now starting the intros, say to tracks like Shadow of the Beast and Battalion. So it's sounded really great. Like so,
he's had the right sort of education, no, for
definitely
for music.
Brian's got another son called Gillen, who is another who's another fantastic singer. But he doesn't want to be in a rock band. I think he's more into sort of like indie music and that. You know, he's Brian and Mandy know how to breed musicians.
And won't there be any potential schedule conflict with Blitzkrieg or Tysondog, or you think?
It may happen, but one of the plans is we spoke to Brian about, because it was Brian who really come to us and says, "Why aren't you appointing? I don't get involved in my son's musical career, but you know, you need to give this guy a chance." Like, you know, I think there's probably more of a chance as us playing shows together.
Okay.
So we're already in talks with certain promoters about doing gigs with Tysondog and Satan. And I think with Brian, the priority is always with Satan because they're the bigger band.
Yeah.
So it's probably there's more chances of us playing a gig with Satan. But again, there's also the chance of if Blitzkrieg get a festival and they're looking for another band, you know, there's a good possibility that they might say, well, why don't we get Tysondog on as well? So
okay. So this album, I was going to say it's going to be released with a label called From the Vaults, right?
Yeah, it's part of the Mighty Music Group in Denmark.
Which is run by Michael, the guitar player of Artillery. So what about possibility of a tour with Tysondog and Artillery? That would be interesting.
I would absolutely love it. I've been working on, I should say, Artillery, and I've been trying to get them to commit. I tried to get them on a festival that I'm involved with or was involved with in the UK. Unfortunately, we lost the venue. The venue closed down, so we've had difficulty finding a replacement. That's called Grim Up North.
Mm-hmm.
I set that up originally to help Steve Grimmett out when he lost his leg over in South America, and Steve supported that. So we've done 2 of them for charity. And we're looking at eventually doing a 3rd one. And Artillery were on top of me hit list. So yeah, I think us and Artillery on the road together would be absolutely mega. Yeah.
Were you familiar with Artillery's music before this day?
Yeah, because they were on Neat Records. So we were kids together. They were on Neat Records. Artillery.
Oh, really?
Back in the 80s, yeah. Yeah, Artillery released an album on Neat Records. So, in fact, the whole thing is Artillery had signed to Neat Records, and we went in, knocked on the door, and basically had our cassette tape, our demo tape, and said to Russ, who was the A&R man at the time, and why are you signing bands from Denmark and other countries when we're on your doorstep? Listen to this. You know, you've got a band, and you know, like young kids do, we're just as good as Artillery. Listen to us.
Funny how things have a way of working out here.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Yes. So yes, there was a way of Artillery.
Just like, you know, now take a step back in time. What do you remember of Tysondog's formative years in the early 1980s?
Really good fun. Lots of gigs, lots of bands. Every night in and around the Northeast, there was bands playing. Fist, Warrior, Tigers of Pantang, Raven were the main ones.
Mm-hmm.
Venom never played. They didn't do any pub gigs.
They
just
played live after this second album was out. They played live, I think.
Yeah, that was all part of it, because it was great doing a lot of gigs. And
the scene of Newcastle was always described as an incestuous scene.
Oh yeah. Everyone was having typical one-upmanship over the other. Do you know what I mean?
Playing with each other, one band member playing with that band and mixing together and
ripping each other's posters off.
Really?
Seen a gig. Seen a gig for Avenger or Atom Craft and ripping a poster and putting your poster over their poster was a trick that people. But having said that, it wasn't nasty. It was quite friendly banter, and we used to go and see each other's other bands playing that. So, and now we're old men. We all get on really well.
Yeah, I mean, Tysondog was formed in 1982, and which is generally considered to be the beginning of the end of the new wave of British heavy metal. So, I don't know, had you really noticed from where you were at the time any decline in that scene, or no, not really?
No, I hadn't. We hadn't really thought of us as being new wave of British heavy metal, although we'd been playing in bands since the late 70s, so 79, 80. Tysondog was really on the scene. I think I've got in 1980 was we were playing gigs and playing shows. Shows. We're playing pubs and club gigs, and the demo I was telling you about that we gave to Neat Records. That was recorded in May 1980. So we were technically in that genre, but it hadn't got a label then. We were just a heavy metal band. Raven was just a heavy metal band. The Tigers were more of a heavy rock band.
Uh-huh.
And Venom, again, were just, later on black metal, but they were just punk band. They were just punks.
You're mentioning Venom. In fact, you always had the story of Venom and Tysondog met many times. You mentioned Mantas had worked on the previous Cry Havoc album. In the debut album, I believe it was produced by Kronos, right?
It was, yeah. Kronos produced it, yeah.
What do you remember of recording that album with him?
He was great because he's a very, very good musician. People don't really give him the credit because they hear the noise, the growling vocals and that. But at times, me and him would be playing bass in the recording booth, and we're both trying to pull off like Jackal Pastorius or Stanley Clark, So we're all trying to give it. and I was playing the Stanley Clark riff for school days. And Conrad come in and says, "Kev, you're playing that wrong." He took it off and he starts giving it slap bass and all that. But
so you do like these jazz musicians? You're a fan of these jazz?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I kind of play like them, but yeah, definitely anything to do with music and that. But so Kronos was working there as a T-boy, and he was just starting to learn the tricks of the trade of Keith Nicol, who was the sound engineer at the time. So Kronos and Keith Nicol helped put together Beware the Dog, and I'm still. I mean, it's not the greatest of sounding albums. The drum sound's not great because our drummer used a mixture of normal drums and electronic drums. So there's certain songs on Demon, for example, where he does a riff and you can tell it goes from your normal toms into these electronic drums, which people were trying out then back in the early 80s. But yeah, we had a great time with him and Tony, the the drummer, Abaddon, he took the photos on the inner sleeve of the second album.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah,
And there's
so-
another Venom connection, I believe, that the drummer in that album, Ged Wolf, used to be the drum tech of Abaddon, right?
He was his. In fact, the drum kit that he used for Beware the Dog was Tony Bray's Abaddon's drum kit. He
That's
got it
actually
off.
his drum kit.
That was his drum kit that he used. And Jed's brother Eric was also Venom's manager, and later on became our manager. Unfortunately, Eric died a few years ago, quite young as well, of cancer. So, so there's this tenuous link. In fact, we are still in touch with Jed, and we're currently, even though that's the new album out on Mighty Music.
Yeah.
That was brought out by Demolition Records. I don't know if you can quite see. That's Hammerhead 2012. That one there. That was just 4 tracks that we re-recorded. That's being re-released with some live tracks.
Cry Havoc is... Sorry, the Hammerhead one?
Hammerhead CD is being released with some tracks from all the albums, except the new one, from live tracks from Cry Havoc, Beware the Dog, Crimes of Insanity. And that's coming out on Jed's label, which is Demolition Records in Newcastle. So that's coming out later on in the year.
Okay. So Tysondog then had split up around 1987 and reunited about 20 years later. So when you were back together, rehearsing the old material, was there any temptation to tinker with them, or you just left them as they were? I mean, we never actually really split up. We just never contacted each other. I was doing stuff with Tiger, which was Jess Cox and Rob Weir's offshoot of the Tigers of Pantan. So I was doing a bit with them, and it was literally the phone stopped ringing. We weren't getting any gigs. The record company didn't take us up on the third album, so the record company dropped us, and we didn't have a fallout or anything like that. It was like just people just then got on with their lives and started to get proper jobs and just go that way. So we didn't actually sort of have a fallout or broke up or anything like that. It just sort of like just drifted off. And then we got back together probably 2010, and Russ Tippins from Satan, he came in on guitar because he wasn't doing anything. Satan hadn't got back together. Pariah hadn't got back. He was just a musician and doing the pub and club circuit around the Northeast. And Alan Hunter was singing. Alan was the second guitarist on the first 2 albums, and me on bass and Rob Walker on drums. And so we only did 1 gig with that lineup. And how come Alan Hunter left then? And
Alan was another one. He was in, he was out. He sort of he had a lot going on with his family. He had kids at university. His daughter was getting married, and again, we're still in touch with Alan. And he just, I think after we played in Barcelona, he was just, I think that's it for me. And he was really scared of flying. He didn't like flying.
Which is a problem when you're touring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we dragged him onto planes around Barcelona, Greece, and Germany. So he's, but no, we're still in touch with Alan. Alan just wanted to call it a day, and fortunately, Paul was playing the Judas Priest tribute band at the time with Steve Morrison, and Steve just fitted like a glove. He's really clever. He does artwork. He does the videos. He's a good guitar really
player, Steve.
Yeah, really good guy as well. So And Rob, again, he wanted to just concentrate. He is a really good jazz drummer and teaches drums, and he just wanted to go down that route. He wanted to teach jazz. He came back a couple of times to guest for us at a few gigs. We played in Holland, Belgium, France, and he just said, "I can't do this anymore."
So how did Phil Bruce come into the picture then?
Again, when Rob said he was just concentrating on doing his tuition, his jazz drumming, we literally just heard that Phil Bruce had left Blitzkrieg and was looking for a band. So it just it was fate more than anything. I got a phone call off a guy called Glenn Howes. Glenn's a musician who's been in nearly every band in the Northeast. He was singing for Fist at one time. He's been in the Tigers of Pantang. He's been in Avenger.
Glenn, of course. I had interviewed him. He played
Glenn Howes.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Well, me and Glenn go back years. We used to hang about as teenagers, and he's a really good guy, Glenn.
Indeed, yeah.
And he'd rang us and just says, I've heard Rob's left. Do you know Phil Bruce is looking for a band? And we didn't even audition anyone. We got Phil in for one rehearsal. We sent him 2, 3, 4 tracks. Said, do you know a couple of Judas Priest songs as well? Came in and we just hit it off. And it says, right, you now need to learn about 15 songs, because in the next couple of weeks we've got gigs in Holland and Belgium. So
as we said, it's a very incestuous scene.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Tysondog has often been referred to as a cult band sometimes. Are you proud of that description or belittled by that?
No, I think it's fine. I think we are. Do you know what I mean? We're not a mainstream band. I think it's type of music I wouldn't say either love us or hate us, because I don't think we're a bad band and that. I don't think we rub any people up the wrong way. But I think it's just we're not as technically gifted as some bands. For example, Satan. We always doth our cap to Satan. We're not as pop bandy as the Tigers of Milan, as we now call them, because we've got two Italians in the band now. So
indeed, yeah.
But the Tigers are a great band, great riffs. Dead, quite catchy sort of rock band. I'd say they're more of a rock band than a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when people if people try and use the Judas Priest analogy against us. It doesn't bother us because we're big fans of bands. Julian, the bass player of Grim Reaper, said to us once when we played in France with him, he says, "Do you know who you remind us of?" I says, "No, who?" He says, "Accept." I was like, do you know what it is? I've never ever been an Accept fan. I've heard maybe one or two. So, no, until recently. And Julian said, "You want to go and listen to some Accept?" And
I see actually a lot of similarities with Accept.
And then since then, I've listened to a hell of a lot. Oh, excuse me, I've listened to quite a bit. Yeah. And I thought, do you know what it is? That's not a bad. I'll wear that.
That's a good album too. That's a good album.
That's a really good album. Really good album. Yeah. So yeah, I just think we're a decent heavy metal band.
Okay. So got to the end. So besides this new album, which should be released very soon, and you've got the festival in Germany, which by the time this interview will be out, you'll have already done. What else you have planned? Tysondog have planned beyond that next few months?
Yeah, well, we've got 3 gigs in Holland and Belgium, which have been organised by Gianni Rigi, a promoter over in Belgium that we've been with quite a while. He's a really good lad.
I met him.
DMC concerts, I think they're called. So we've got 3 gigs in there. The Little Devil in Tilburg is always a great gig for us. It's a total sweat box.
I've been there a few times. It's very synonymous with the metal scene there, that venue.
Yeah, great. And I think he's got a club called the Ragnarok, which we're playing in Belgium, and one which to this day I just cannot pronounce, called something like the De Wield Seagilst in Belgium. I just cannot pronounce it, but it's a really good venue. We've played that before.
And these will be before the summer.
This is June. This is very early June. Yeah, I think it's I haven't got them to hand, but in around 3rd, 4th, 5th of June. We were asked to play up the Hammers Festival in Athens, but we couldn't fit it in. We couldn't get flights. We just couldn't get out there. Very kindly asked us if we wanted to play it. And we've got the 10th of June in our hometown at a club called Trillions, which is quite a famous venue in that. Great sound system, great lighting rig, small, underground, bit like, sort of a bit like a mini marquee, and it's a really great. So we've got that on the 10th of June, and then after that, we're still waiting to hear about this one in Brazil in November. These 2 in Brazil, and we're doing a festival that Michael has kindly put us on over in Denmark, but that's not next March, I think. I'll have to check the diary. So
March of next year.
We've already got a new album written.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that in that bit of time we've got, if no, depending on if any other gigs come our way, we can maybe get those songs finished off, rehearsed, and get another one out as soon as with Alan singing.
With Alan, So obviously it's too early to. Have you started writing songs with Alan? I don't think it's too early.
He's done one already. Yeah, him and Steve. Steve had a really good riff. Sent it to Alan. This is what I'm saying. He's consummate professional. Like you say, he's grew up in a metal family with Brian, and so Steve sent him this tune. Come back, he wrote the lyrics for it already. Paul's already got something like 10 or 12 songs. So I would say we've probably got about 15 songs to have a go at and that. So yeah, it's quite exciting. Quite looking forward to getting the new stuff done.
Fantastic. And everyone can check your website or Facebook page for all the details of these gigs, of course.
Yes, we'll update that. Steve's again, he's the genius. He keeps the website updated, and we need to work on the club shop. We literally haven't got very much merch because of the pandemic. We weren't gigging, we weren't touring, so we haven't got any new t-shirts. We've got albums and button badges and pin badges and some patches, but that's about it. So we need to really get some merch ordered.
I'm sure you will by the time all the gigs kick in. Kevin, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. What can I say?
And you,
Best
Chris,
wishes for this new album.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, it's been lovely to meet you, and I hope to catch you soon. And we'll have a
I hope so too. Thanks, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Take care. All the best now. Bye-bye. Cheers, Chris.